Hello, Greeley. Here is your recap of the August 4th Greeley City Council meeting. First off, Mayor Hall was again absent, and so Mayor Pro Tem McDonald ran the meeting. There were 11 people who spoke in person and one person who spoke online. However, despite having their hand raised, they sent me a screenshot to confirm they were never called on, and it was said there was no one in the virtual audience. So I did end up interrupting the meeting after trying to subtly get the attention of Mayor Pro Tem to ask that this person be allowed to speak. I spoke last night discussing the GWIP annexation, those properties around the Carestream where global AI is. And I shared my concerns around this annexation and the lack of plans we have as far as how we're going to serve those properties. This ended up later being pulled from the consent agenda, and Councilmember DeBoutez said it was because of the comments made during public input. During that, she did ask many of the questions, as did Councilmember Huddleston, that were raised by my public comment. The first of which was, can we serve these properties? Much like they had said in the Planning Commission, basically the response from the city and Don Threewitt was, those are still in negotiations, but we'll figure it out. Deb also raised the concern of the enclave that we'd be creating, but we were reassured that there will still be a 10-foot strip bordering a municipality. Therefore, it's not technically an enclave, though Mr. Threewitt did acknowledge that it will end up being a flagpole annexation. And then Councilmember Olson clarified who approached who and had the city again reiterate that it was Bro who approached the city. The problem is that may be on paper, but we also know that Martin Lind is orchestrating a lot of this. And so it's hard to tell whether or not this is actually all on the up and up and just a landowner who decided they wanted to come to Greeley. The other item that was pulled from the consent agenda was the item on Civic Center campus. Councilmember Olson made it very clear that he does not want to move forward with Civic Center due to West Greeley and the lack of resolution there. In fact, later also on the appropriation of the budget, voting against that as he didn't want to appropriate the funds. It did otherwise pass. There are a lot of incentives being provided to Richmark, though Councilmember Huddleston asked some questions to gain some clarity around that. The city and Richmark both indicated that it isn't as big of an incentive as it may seem, for the fact that they are fees we wouldn't be getting without the project. Granted, we won't be getting them with the project, but that we're not out anything and it doesn't require any additional money out of our budget. I'd also like to give credit that Mayor Pro Tem McDonald really ran the meeting far better than what we've seen over the last several months. In fact, with citizen input, even saying, if I say your name wrong, please let me know so that I can correct that. During the proclamation, she looked up at the people that she was speaking to a couple times. So that was a pleasant surprise. They then discussed the HUD funding that we're getting. There was a really tense moment in here in which Olson interrupted the woman from the city who was speaking as he was trying to get clarity around whether or not they could move forward, the council could move forward with budget, or if the changing numbers for this department would affect that. And she was effectively trying to say that it wouldn't have any effect. And he seemed to overpower and to interrupt, which definitely didn't feel good. There were two members of the community who discussed flock cameras and concerns around that. And Councilmember DeBoutez requested that there be a presentation from the city and from the police department around flock so that we can get more information. As always, check the body in my Facebook post for the full breakdown. And if you have any questions, let me know.